Welcome back guys, this is Falgun. So today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, and the topic is pollination. So in this video we are going to discuss about the pollination, types of pollination and agents of pollination. Okay, so stay till the end. So let us start this video with the definition. So what is the definition of pollination? So pollination is what? It is a process in which pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of a carpel or pistil. So that process is called as an pollination. So what we need to understand here is, so here you can observe this particular region is the filament, okay, to which the anther is attached. Anther consists of pollen grains. Okay, these pollen grains on liberation move and attaches at the region of the stigma. So this portion of the pistil is called as a stigma. Okay, so this pollen attaches to the stigma on the dehiscence of anther wall. This process is called as an pollination. So that is it. Okay, depending upon the source of pollen, pollination can be divided into three types. Okay, so the first one is autogamy. Secondly, we have zenogamy, and last but not the least, we have xenogamy. So we are going to discuss all of these in detail. Let us start the discussion with the autogamy. Okay, so what is autogamy? Autogamy is what? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a same flower. Okay, so here what happens? This is also we can say the autogamy as self-pollination. Okay, so what happens here? You can observe that in a single flower, okay, the anther produces pollen grains, and these pollen grains move from the anther to the stigma. Otherwise, I can also say like the pollination occurs within a single or same flower. Okay, here normal flower which opens exposes the anther and stigma. In that particular point of time, we can say that autogamy is very rare. Why it is rare? Because autogamy requires synchrony. So what is synchrony? What is the meaning of word synchrony? Synchrony is nothing but the release of pollen. Yes, release of pollen and stigma receptivity should occur in the same time. Okay, in the same time pollen should release and stigma should receive the pollen tube. If that is occurring at the same time, then that process is called as synchrony. So that is the main reason why we call autogamy is rare in the normal flower. Okay, so it should be synchronized. Okay, so some plants like viola, oxalis, commelina, they produce two types of flowers. So that is what we are going to discuss in next slide. Let us move into it. So they produce two types of flower. The first one is chesmogamous, second is cleistrogamous. So let us discuss what chesmogamous flower look like, or what are the characters of the chesmogamous flower. So well, in this flower what happens? These flowers are similar to the flowers of other species, in which anthers and stigma are exposed. Okay, they are not closed, they are exposed. That means these flower, there is a most probable chances that this flower can perform cross pollination. There is a most probable chances. Cross pollination. Okay. While in the case of cleistrogamous flower, what happens? The anther and stigma are enclosed within a flower. Okay. So they lie close to each other first of all, and they are enclosed within a flower. Okay, they are not exposed, they are enclosed. So here you can see these are the, let me just change the color of the pen. So these are the flower. Okay, these are the cleistrogamous flowers. Okay, in this case you can observe that these are enclosed, they are not exposed. Okay, in chesmogamous flower you can observe these flower have the exposed stigma and anthers, while in this case they are enclosed within the flower. Okay, so these flower, as right now I've discussed that these flower can perform cross pollination, but cleistrogamous flower have invariably autogamous. Okay, they are purely autogamous flowers. That means they always perform self pollination. Okay, so let us move further. Now let us discuss about zettanogamy. So what is zettanogamy? Zettanogamy is nothing but, here what happens, we have to observe this diagram very keenly, because this is very important diagram that explains us zettanogamy and xenogamy. Okay, so what happens here, you can observe we are considering only one plant. Okay, in xenogamy we will be considering two plants, but right now we are considering only one plant. Okay, in this one plant you can able to observe that there is presence of two flowers, right? These two flower B and flower C, not B, I'll take it as an Z. Okay, flower Z and flower C. Okay, so observe in this diagram that this flower Z and C belongs to the same plant, right? All right, perfect. Okay, so the pollen from flower Z transfers to the stigma of flower C. Okay, so for this transfer of the pollen from flower Z to flower C, there is a requirement of the pollinating agent. As the pollinating agent comes into act here, so that is the reason why we call it as an cross pollination. Understood what is the logic behind it? Okay, so what happens in the zettanogamy is that the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of another flower of a same plant, if that occurs, functionally it is called as an cross pollination, no doubt in it, because there is an involvement of pollinating agent basically. Okay, but genetically what we say it as an, genetically it is called as an autogamy. Why genetically it is called as an autogamy? Because these two flowers are belonging to the same plant, so no doubt technically it is it is performing cross pollination, but in genetic wise there is no difference in genetic characters. There is no difference in genetic characters. That is the reason why we call it as an, in the process of zettanogamy, functionally it occurs cross pollination, but genetically it is similar to autogamy, because there is no change in genetic characters. Bas, that is it. Okay. Now moving further to xenogamy. See, xenogamy, complete cross pollination, occurs in this type of pollination, that is xenogamy. So what happens here? It is a process in which transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of different plant. This we need to understand. So in the let us look into the process of xenogamy by the same diagram what we have took earlier. Okay. So this is the plant A. Let me just change the color of the pen. Okay. This is the plant A and this is the plant B. Now we are going to talk about these two plants. Okay. The pollen from the plant A transfers to the stigma of the plant B. Okay. So this transfer of pollen to the stigma of a plant B requires a pollinating agent. Okay. So that is the reason why it is called as an xenogamy, and genetically different characters are present in plant A and plant B. So genetically different individual after fertilization it will form. Genetically different individual it will form, but not in the case of zetonogamy. In the case of zetonogamy we can't able to observe any genetic variation, but in the case of xenogamy, genetically two different plants we are using. So we are not using, it's in nature, right? So if genetically two different plants are taken into act, so the individual produced after pollination and fertilization will be genetically different from the parents. So genetic variation can be observed in the case of xenogamy, but not in the case of autogamy or zetonogamy. So that is it. That is about the xenogamy. Okay. So we'll have a quick revision or quick recap of what we have studied in this video. Okay. In autogamy what we have understood that it is a purely self-pollinating process. Okay. So what happens here? The transfer of pollen to the stigma occurs within a same plant or flower, you can say. Okay, same flower. So this transfer is called as an autogamy. Autogamy again produces two kinds of flowers. Okay, chesmogamous and cleistrogamous. Chesmogamous, here there may be chances of cross pollination because it has the exposed stigma and anthers. Okay, it has exposed stigma and anthers, while in the case of cleistrogamous, anthers and stigma are enclosed within the flower. So there is no chance of cross pollination. Only cell pollination occurs in this case. Which case? Cleistrogamous flower. In the cleistrogamous flower only cell pollination occurs. Okay. Now coming to the next part, what we have discussed right now. So next we have understood about the zetonogamy. In zetonogamy what happens? The transfer of pollen occurs from one flower to other flower, and these two flowers belonging to the same plant. Okay, no doubt technically or functionally it is cross pollination, but genetically it is self pollination kind of pollination. Okay, in xenogamy what we have understood is in xenogamy, or it is called as an complete cross pollination. Okay, why? Because here we can able to understand that here two different genetically different plants are taken into act. okay, or the pollination occurs in two different genetically different plants. Okay, so this condition is called as an xenogamy. So here involvement of pollinators is required to perform the xenogamy. So that is what we have discussed till now. So now let us understand about the pollinating agents. Okay, these pollinating agents have role in the process called zytonogamy and xenogamy. Okay, so what happens here, you can observe. So what we are going to discuss right now is what are those pollinating agents which actually helps to make up the pollination. Okay, so there are two kinds of pollinating agents. One is biotic agent and there is abiotic agents. Okay, biotic agents, the word biotic resembles living. From that we have understood that these biotic agents are living organisms which acts as an pollinators. They act as an pollinators. Okay, what are those? They may be insects or birds. Okay, these organisms basically they act as pollinators. Okay, so coming to the abiotic agents, there are some non-living objects that act as an pollinators. So what are those? That may be wind, that may be water, or many other conditions or objects are present. Okay, wind act as a pollinator in the species of grasses, while water act as a pollinator in the species, particularly the species of bryophytes and pteridophytes. If you like my work, then please make sure you subscribe this channel and make sure you hit that like button and suggest me some topics that I'll be covering in coming up videos. Thank you for joining in. Falgun signing out.